Imagine sitting in an exam hall. The clock is ticking down from 2 hours and 40 minutes. You're staring at this brutal logic puzzle that could effectively determine your entire academic future, and you instinctively reach into your bag for your calculator.
And that is exactly when the panic sets in.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you realize they've banned it.
Yeah.
You can't outsource your thinking to a machine.
Right. You are entirely reliant on your own raw mental agility. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking you inside the gauntlet of getting into Pakistan's premier university. We're talking about the Lahore University of Management Sciences, or, as it's universally known, LUMS.
It really is a fascinating ecosystem to unpack.
It is, and our mission today is to hand you the ultimate playbook based on our sources. We're going to explore this unique academic landscape, confront the very real financial realities of attending, map out the career payoffs, and ultimately break down the secret recipe to conquering their highly competitive admissions process.
Yeah, but to conquer it, you really have to realize that applying to LUMS it's not a simple input-output machine where you just feed in transcripts and wait for an acceptance letter.
Right.
It is a highly complex, multifaceted strategy game.
Exactly. You can't just rely on having good stats. You have to play the exact right cards, your essays, your standardized test scores, your specific subject choices at the exact right moment to beat some seriously intimidating odds. So let's start by looking at the board you're playing on. What is the academic landscape actually like there?
Well, LUMS operates on a core philosophy they call learning without borders. Now, I know universities love their marketing slogans, but here, it actually dictates how their 5 distinct schools interact.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just a buzzword.
Not at all. You have the Sulman Deowood School of Business, the Humanities and Social Sciences School, the School of Science and Engineering, the School of Law, and the School of Education.
And the breadth of what you can study across those 5 schools is massive. I mean, you've got your traditional pathways, a BSc in accounting and finance, a BS in computer science, or even a BA LLB. And obviously they have graduate tracks too, like an MBA, MS, or a PhD. But how does that learning without borders thing actually work in practice? Like, what does it look like on the ground for a student?
It looks like intentional intellectual collisions. Let's say you're a computer science major. At a lot of traditional institutions, you're locked in a proverbial basement focusing purely on code.
Right. You never see the light of day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at LUMS, you're actively encouraged to cross disciplines. You might be a tech student who takes a minor in history, or you might pursue a BA in comparative literature and creative arts while taking heavy quantitative courses. They even offer a formal joint major in economics and mathematics.
Wow.
The underlying logic is that the modern world's problems aren't neatly categorized into single subjects. They want engineers who understand macroeconomics and business leaders who can grasp complex social sciences.
That sounds incredible, but obviously an environment like that is going to be incredibly exclusive. So if you're a high schooler listening to this or a parent helping your kid plan, you need to know who you're up against. What are the actual odds here? Can you walk us through the numbers?
I can, and it serves as a pretty stark reality check. Let's look at the data for the incoming undergraduate class of 2029-30. Out of a massive applicant pool of thousands of students from across the country and globally, really, they admitted just over 1,400 students.
Okay, 1,400. That is a highly select group. What do the academic profiles of those 1,400 admitted students actually look like?
The averages are genuinely staggering. For students coming from the British system, the average O-level profile was 8 A's.
Wow.
Yeah. And for students coming from the local Pakistani board, the average FSC or ICS score was 93%. And for those submitting standardized test scores, the average SAT was a 1380.
Okay, I have to push back here. Because if the average admitted student has 8 A's and a 93%, it sounds entirely like a numbers game. Like if a listener has, say, 6 A's and a B, shouldn't they just save their application fee and pack it up, look elsewhere?
No, I strongly disagree with that assumption. That is a very common misconception that terrifies perfectly qualified applicants. It raises an important question about what holistic admissions actually means in the real world.
So it's not just the grades?
Right. Yes, those numbers set a baseline. They prove you can handle the academic rigor. But the evaluation at LUMS is heavily school-specific and truly holistic. A flawless transcript with straight A's but lacking a compelling narrative will often get rejected.
Really? So they're looking for something beyond just the ability to memorize a textbook?
Exactly. They're actively looking for evidence of civic engagement. They want to see a desire to affect positive change in your community. And beyond that, they're looking for specific domain expertise, especially in the STEM fields.
How so? Give me an example.
Well, if you apply to the School of Science and Engineering, as BASI, having brilliant general grades isn't enough. You need the correct subject combinations. You have to prove you can handle advanced math, physics, or chemistry at a university level.
Oh, I see.
So a student with slightly lower overall grades, but a phenomenal demonstrated aptitude in their specific science subjects, backed up by a deeply personal essay, will absolutely beat out a student with a perfect but completely generic transcript.
Okay, so let's say you've played this strategy game perfectly. You've showcased your civic engagement, you've hit the required grades, you've nailed the essays, and you get that coveted acceptance letter. We need to talk about the next massive hurdle. We've established that LUMS demands elite academic performance. But usually, elite is just a polite synonym for unaffordable.
Yes, the financial reality.
Right. What kind of financial investment are we actually talking about here? Are we looking at standard local university rates or something much steeper?
It is significantly steeper, and they have recently shifted their billing model in a way that directly impacts how students plan their education. They transitioned away from a flat per semester fee to a per credit hour billing model.
Right. And according to the latest figures for fall 2024 from the sources, that per credit rate is set at 37,070 Pakistani rupees.
Correct.
Okay, help me visualize that. Say I'm an incoming freshman and I'm taking a standard full-time load of 16 credits. What is the bottom line on the invoice I get in my first semester?
For a 16-credit semester, you're looking at roughly 593,120 PKR for tuition alone. On top of that, there's a one-time admission fee of 151,700 PKR,
Yeah.
plus some miscellaneous registration and security fees.
To put that in perspective, for anyone trying to anchor that number, 500,000 rupees a semester is vastly higher than the average household income in the region. That is a gargantuan investment.
It absolutely is.
Wait, I'm actually a bit confused here. If the core philosophy of LES is that admissions are on merit alone, how does this pricing model align with that? Doesn't charging over 500,000 rupees a semester just turn the university into an enclave for the ultra-wealthy?
A vital question. Let's look at the logic behind the fee structure first, and then how they solve that equity problem. The sources explicitly state the shift to per-credit billing was designed to promote sounder academic decisions.
Sounder academic decisions.
Yeah. Under the old flat fee system, students would often overload on courses taping 20 or 22 credits simply because it didn't cost them any extra money.
Ah, so they were treating it like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Exactly. And the result was massive burnout, poor academic performance, and students dropping classes mid-semester, which wasted resources. By charging per credit, the university forces you to be highly strategic about your course load. You pay exactly for what you consume, which creates a more focused academic environment.
Okay, that explains the why of the billing structure, but it still leaves us with the equity problem. If I am a brilliant student from a working class background, that per credit logic doesn't help me pay the bill.
And that is where the LUMS financial aid engine comes into play. Their philosophy dictates that your financial need has absolutely zero bearing on your acceptance. The admissions committee operates completely blind to your bank account. If you're good enough to get in, the university takes on the burden of ensuring you can actually attend.
And the scale of this safety net is hard to overstate. Between 25% and 30% of the entire student body, so roughly 1 in 4 students, is on some form of financial aid. Since their inception, they have disbursed over 10.16 billion PKR. That's billion with a B.
It is essentially a massive wealth redistribution engine designed to capture talent. It comes in several different tiers. For instance, they have straight merit scholarships. The top 100 first-year students automatically receive merit scholarships. This is broken down proportionally 30 each for business, humanities, and science, and 10 for law.
And you don't even have to apply for that separately, right? It just gets applied if your name is at the top of the academic list.
Correct. It's an incredible incentive. They also offer 50% tuition waivers for Master of Science students in basic sciences to encourage deep research and fully funded 100% scholarships for all admitted PhDs. But the most transformative initiative they run, by far, is the National Outreach Program, or the NOP.
Yes, I was reading through the sources on this, and the NOP is genuinely fascinating. It's designed specifically for exceptionally bright, underprivileged students from all over Pakistan. We're talking full tuition waivers, accommodation, and even a stipend to cover living expenses. It completely decouples a student's wealth from their educational access.
The mechanism of the NOP is what makes it so successful. They don't just put up a poster and wait for marginalized students to figure out how to apply. The NOP team actively travels. They go to rural schools and colleges in remote villages and towns across the country. They're trying to identify high-potential talent early, usually in the first year of a student's intermediate or A-level studies.
And once they find that talent, the way they test them is brilliant. They don't just send them a written exam. If you get shortlisted, LUMS physically brings you to their campus in Lahore for a 2-week summer coaching session. They pay for your travel, your stay, your meal.
Now let's unpack why they do that. Why not just give them an online test? Because LEMS understands that raw intelligence isn't enough. You have to evaluate resilience, adaptability, and social integration. You take a student from a quiet, rural village and drop them into a high-intensity, elite, urban university environment for 2 weeks.
Right.
You have them take classes, interact with professors, and navigate the campus.
You literally watch how they handle the pressure.
Precisely. You observe how they adapt. And if a student thrives in that 2-week pressure cooker, LUMS commits to them. The university actually pays the registration fee for their entrance exam. They systematically remove every single financial friction point that usually keeps marginalized talent out of elite institutions.
So whether you're paying the per-credit fee, or you earned a merit scholarship, or you're an NOP scholar, you are investing massive amounts of time, energy, and resources into this degree. Which brings us to the ultimate question. What is the return on investment? Like, what does this all mean for your actual career and job opportunities?
It's the multi-million rupee question. Now, to be clear, based on our sources today, LUMS does not publish a single exact average starting salary figure for its graduates.
Which honestly might frustrate a listener who just wants a simple spreadsheet calculation to figure out if it's worth it.
It might, but a single average salary would actually be highly misleading.
How so?
Well, the variance between a graduate taking a high-powered corporate finance role in Dubai and a graduate launching a grassroots NGO in rural Sindh is massive. Both are successful outcomes. Both are highly sought after by the university, but they heavily skew the math. So instead of giving us a single number, the sources map out the blueprint of the machine that generates elite employability, the Career Services Office or the CSO.
Okay, but a lot of universities have a career office. It's usually like a sad room at the back of the student center where a staff member hands you a generic resume template and wishes you luck. What makes the LUMS CSO actually move the needle for a student's career nationally and internationally?
It's the sheer aggression and integration of their pipeline. It is a mandatory, highly structured 4-year strategy. You don't just panic in your senior year and start asking for a job. If you're a freshman or sophomore, the CSO is already working with you. You're attending skill-building workshops, they're sitting down with you to construct a professional LinkedIn profile, and they're actively helping you secure summer internships to build your resume early.
It sounds like the CSO isn't just a waiting room for graduates, it's an escalator. You step onto it on day 1 of freshman year, and it actively pulls you upward toward employment while you're busy studying.
That's a great way to look at it. And by the time you reach your junior and senior years, the training wheels come off. The CSO organizes intensive mock interviews. And they don't just have you practice with university staff, they bring in actual alumni and industry professionals to grill you. They organize massive career fairs, targeted networking sessions, and direct recruitment drives right there on the campus.
Yeah, the sources mention a proprietary Connect portal where HR managers are actively logging in to recruit students. They've essentially built a private bridge between academic theory, which is great for the classroom, and the ruthless reality of the corporate job market.
And we absolutely cannot talk about the ROI without mentioning the global reach. If you graduate from LUMS, you inherit an alumni network of over 18,000 members. That is a deeply entrenched web of professionals across the globe. Plus, their Office of International Affairs manages 46 active exchange programs worldwide.
We're talking about the ability to spend a semester at Sciences Po in France or Seoul National University in South Korea. The impact of that is huge. If you take advantage of those exchange programs, you aren't just graduating as a competitive candidate in the Pakistani job market, you're expanding your worldview. You become globally competitive.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most crucial piece of the puzzle. Knowing the incredible payoff, the interdisciplinary education, the powerful network, the global mobility makes getting past the gatekeepers even more crucial. So, how do you actually conquer the LMS entry requirements?
All right, let's get tactical. Brief tips for admission. If you want in, you have to face the ultimate boss level, the LCAT, or the LMS Common Admission Test. Now, while the university does accept the SAT or ACT for some specific programs, the LCAT remains the central pillar of the admissions ecosystem. So how does this test actually work?
The LCAT is a 2-hour and 40-minute paper-based multiple-choice exam. It's divided into 4 sections. 2 sections are focused on verbal and reading skills, and 2 are focused on quantitative and logical reasoning.
And here is the crucial detail, the one we teased at the very beginning of this deep dive. Calculators are strictly prohibited in the exam hall.
That restriction causes a massive paradigm shift for a lot of students. We have an entire generation of students who are completely used to relying on technology for complex computations.
Preparing for the LSAT without a calculator is like training for a marathon on a dirt track instead of a treadmill. You can't rely on the machine to keep your pace. But what is physically happening to a student's brain in that room? Why is taking the calculator away such a hurdle?
It dramatically increases your cognitive load. When you have a calculator, you can afford to just memorize formulas, plug in the numbers, and let the machine do the heavy lifting. Without it, you have to hold the intermediate steps of a math problem in your working memory while simultaneously analyzing the logic of the question.
Oh, wow. That sounds intense.
It is. If your previous high school education depended heavily on rote memorization, just parroting back facts without understanding the underlying mechanics, the LCAT will expose that flaw almost immediately. The toughest hurdle isn't usually the arithmetic itself, it's the logical reasoning under immense time pressure.
So what is the secret recipe for success here? If brute force memorization doesn't work, how do you prepare?
I argue that you have to completely change your preparation timeline and strategy. Strong O and A-level grades, or FSC marks, are your foundation. But you must pair that with the correct subject combinations, especially for the sciences. As we mentioned, if you're applying to the science and engineering school, you will likely need to take the SBASE subject test. This demands deep, advanced knowledge of physics, chemistry, or biology. Basic high school knowledge won't cut it.
And you can't neglect the subjective elements of the application either. The essays and personal statements are where you add the required depth. That's where you prove you aren't just a test-taking robot.
Absolutely. Oh, and I also want to take a moment to bust a very persistent myth here. Every year, there are rumors swirling on student forums about negative marking on the LCAT, meaning you lose points for incorrect answers, which changes how you should guess.
Right, the classic standardized test fear.
Yeah. But the reality is that the university's policies on negative marking can and do shift from year to year. Do not rely on rumors from previous applicants. Checking the official LUMS portal for your specific application year's rules is absolutely mandatory.
Which brings us to the timeline. If you're listening to this and you want to be in the fall 2026 incoming class, here is your prep clock. In the summer, July, and August, you need to be starting your subject reviews and identifying your weak areas.
Actually, I'd argue that starting in July might already be too late for someone who is severely out of practice with raw mental math. If you haven't done long division on paper in 3 years, you need to start retraining your brain months earlier.
That's fair.
But yes, by early fall, September, and October, you should absolutely be taking early diagnostic mock exams. And you must do them under real strict time pressure. No calculators, no extra minutes.
Then by November and December, you're transitioning to full-length mock exams to build stamina. You're also finalizing your application documents and relentlessly polishing those personal essays. January is when you hit submit on the application, and February is when you actually walk into the hall and sit for the LCAT.
It is an incredibly grueling timeline. It requires immense discipline. But as we've seen from the academic environment and the career outcomes, the payoff is immense.
It really is. When you look at the rigorous nature of this whole process, especially the prohibition of calculators and the intense focus on logical reasoning, it forces you to step back and consider what these entrance tests are actually measuring.
It's a great point. What is the actual value of testing mental math when literally every single person in that exam hall has a supercomputer sitting in their pocket?
Right. And that is the final provocative thought we want to leave you with today. In an age where rote memorization and basic computation can be entirely outsourced to a smartphone or solved in 3 seconds by AI, LUMS is testing something much deeper. They aren't testing your ability to be a calculator. They're testing your critical thinking, your pattern recognition, and your psychological resilience.
Exactly.
They're testing your ability to perform and problem solve under intense pressure when your digital crutches are kicked away. So ask yourself, how does shifting our focus from what to think, like memorizing historical dates and math formulas, to how to think, Recognizing logical flaws, connecting interdisciplinary ideas, and solving complex human puzzles change the way we prepare the next generation of leaders. Because looking at this playbook, it seems clear that LUMS is betting heavily on the latter.
It is a profound philosophical shift in education.
Mhm.
And understanding that shift clearly dictates who survives their strategic admissions game and who gets left behind.
Well, if you're gearing up to take on this challenge, we have some fantastic news for you. To help you navigate this exact process, a highly detailed blog post focusing entirely on LUMS entry test preparation will shortly be uploaded. It will break down these tactical strategies even further to help you put all of this theory into action. So make sure you're on the lookout for that.
It will be an invaluable resource for anyone staring down that February exam date.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning the world around you, and remember, when it comes to your education and your future, don't just look at the stats on the board. Make sure you understand how to play the game. Catch you next time.